So we're back with episode 4 here of Earnest Medicine. We'll pop Dr. Brown up onto the screen for you. As you can see, there's an empty seat here next to me, and the man, the myth, the legend is feeling a little under the weather. I have him on this Zoom call just right here on the screen in front of me, and we were talking about how, as somebody who sees a lot of sick individuals, doctors are oftentimes subject to feeling bad themselves. And I think it's incredible that only now, really at this point, after all of this, has Dr. Brown sort of been feeling a little under the weather. And we're going to discuss essentially what that means, coming from a physician's perspective, and also what you can look out for and what you can do if you are also a fellow physician out there who is feeling under the weather. So let's roll our intro, and then we'll get Dr. Brown up here on our screen and go for this thing. So here we go. Welcome to Earnest Medicine, episode number 4. All right. Well, thank you for joining us. I'm going to pop Dr. Brown up here on the screen so we can get this thing kicked off and dive into some of our subject matter now that we are both together, even though it's in a virtual setting. So let's go for it. There he is from his apartment, chiming in. How you doing? How you feeling?
I'm doing better, but I'm following doctor's orders. What I can give you a little background that, I have been under the weather. I'm certainly better, but last Thursday, I was, out and about, and really by the time evening rolled around, you got a sense of, kind of where you're at. And all of a sudden, I just kind of felt something's not right. And actually, I was out doing house calls, and all of a sudden, and
just
I realized,
hits you.
Yeah, I gotta pull over. So I'm sure the neighbors would have been very amused by this guy, all in blue, running around in his blue car, blue scrubs, blue shoes, barfing blue. But I threw up massively,
God.
3 times back to back. And I was like, this is not good.
Right.
So, I unfortunately had to change out of a few things and hop back in the vehicle and scurried off. Really just made it home and literally crashed. And I was like, okay, I got to listen to my body, got to do what I need to do. I also need to make sure that I am not positive for COVID-19. And so, even with the pandemic, for long stretches of times, I had been testing myself every day at a huge expense, over $40,000 throughout the pandemic, just testing myself to make sure, I'm a physician and I cannot infect others. And if I were to come back positive, I would have to close up shop for the required time to quarantine. For reasons unknown, I have never gotten COVID-19. And lo and behold, I tested myself. I had influenza A.
Yeah.
Of all the things. I don't know. And I think I can trace back to what it was. I was, as a physician going into, especially a house call doctor, going into environments. But what I really attribute it is I actually was with a patient for 5 hours on Saturday and then another 7 hours on Sunday. And that back to back, sitting with the patient in the emergency room, advocating for them, making sure everything was, and that's probably where I got it.
Oh yeah.
I mean, I think like a virus, so I kind of know precautions to take, but you can only be in an environment where there's just viral bombs going off around you, and Thankfully, it wasn't COVID-19, although I am vaccinated for COVID-19, but also vaccinated for influenza. So that was in preparation because I knew this winter would be a very difficult winter. So getting vaccinated for COVID-19 and influenza was important. But here I was on a Thursday night, body aches, stomach cramps, headache.
Yeah, debilitating. Just takes you out.
Oh yeah, like a Mack truck. Soon as I tested myself, I grabbed into my medication bag, pulled out some Tamiflu, and started antiviral. Yeah. And that's the key thing. And that's why, even for this winter season, I had been telling everyone, hey, get vaccinated. But then also, we do have treatment for influenza. So influenza has been here since August, and I've been barking about it. And, people have predominantly been testing for COVID-19. And I've had a few cases of people who actually had COVID. I mean, did not have COVID, but actually had influenza.
Right.
And unfortunately, they only tested for COVID and never got the benefit of using a medication like Tamiflu, which is a miracle drug if you can take it quick enough.
So what's some of the backstory on that? Because I mean, whenever we first had that conversation, you had mentioned that drug name, and I was kind of like, I don't know if I've actually heard of this before. So is it a well-known thing, or is it something that's sort of a secret, that not many people know too much about, or what would you say?
Well, the vaccine, influenza vaccine is a preventative, but, in terms of treatment, the only way to go after a virus is an antiviral medication.
Right.
And Tamiflu, which is the branded name, people are familiar with it. It is an antiviral. It's specifically, it's highly effective if you can time it right.
Right.
That medication, if you go over 48 hours, the effectiveness of it is greatly reduced. And so that begs the question, if somebody feels sick, they're like, I don't feel good. Not getting tested, the longer you remain infected, the worse your condition be. But then, you aren't taking medication to stop the virus. And more importantly, to stop the virus so that you can reduce the possibility of spreading the virus.
Right.
So Tamiflu is a medication you take twice a day. It's for 5 days. It's super simple. Side effects are almost negligible.
Right.
But the benefits are tremendous.
Yeah.
But again, it is we may have this tool, but if we don't, if we forget about influenza, then and only test for COVID-19, it'll be missed. And I would say, really at the peak of Omicron, I was testing half the people who were symptomatic and they were actually influenza and not COVID-19. And for some smaller population, these are mostly college students, they were both influenza and COVID-19.
So they had both.
And they've been tested for COVID-19 and they've been tested for COVID-19 and quarantined and were god-awful sick. And they missed the opportunity to get the antiviral. Yeah. So they had to fight against two viruses, not one. And that's unfortunate. So, taking the medication at the right time was key. I did feel better the next day. Unfortunately, as with any viral infection, there can be swings, where all of a sudden, you feel better and you're like, oh, go back out there.
Right.
Well, I wasn't going back out there because I already knew what I had to do, quarantine, because it is influenza. So it's the same thing. You cannot, and I think this is, probably also part of public services. This is what people should do for influenza to prevent influenza from being the killer that it is, especially in certain populations. So once I had that information and started the treatment, adhered to bed rest, avoiding contact, even for you, which is why I'm here now.
Yes, thank you.
And and continuing to take the medication, but also continuing to monitor my positive test. What I'm looking for is to have a negative rapid influenza A antigen test, which would then mean my the potential for me to transmit is then gone. Right. When we do you could do PCR testing for COVID-19 and influenza, but really the rapid antigen tells you whether this virus is in you and shedding, which means that, all the little stuff that's coming off, and
Right.
that is actually virus. What's ironic is that the day before, I had gone out with my fiance Paige, and we were at dinner, and she was like, "Oh, you're sniffling." I was like, "No, no." I'm a man. I'm not.
Nothing's
No,
happening.
no.
Nothing's
And
wrong.
and she picked on it. She picked up on it very, very quick. And so, she was right. And I bow to her superior knowledge and observation. But where I'm at right now, still testing weekly positive. So I'm going to give it another 48 hours to clear.
Right.
And then really try to, I am doing home exercises. I'm hydrating. I'm sleeping. All the regular things that one should do. Yeah. And what's nice is, understanding that, I'm here to care for patients, which, course, for me, they're not just patients, but they're my friends and family. And it's nice to see, that concern come back from them.
Absolutely.
And one of my good friends gave me or sent me an order of some immune boosting elixirs, and this is called Pyro. And
sounds flammable.
And it packs it packs a punch. It has these are the only ingredients: ginger, lemon, turmeric, and cayenne pepper.
Holy crap!
And I've already had one, so I'm gonna take my gum out.
Is this a tablet or a salve?
No, this is an elixir. You drink it.
Oh.
It is. Yeah, it is. It is like, wow. So bottoms up.
You go through the whole thing.
Cool. Yeah, you're supposed to. Yeah. I mean, if you want to boost, right? And there's other, there are a variety of these products. I think this is a product from J Drink.
Okay.
And so she ordered it, and it got dropped off. So bottoms up.
Down the hatch.
Every pour. Oh my gosh, the ginger is the kick, but then the cayenne lingers.
Right, that's the
the
taste that sticks around a little longer.
And it's not like it's. I mean, it's balanced well. I mean, it's not obnoxious, but it's.
Lynn would like to send you. Lynn would like to send you a little bit of chicken soup if you're cool with that.
I would love some chicken soup. I'm a big favor of chicken soup and also beef bone marrow soup. Those things are what I'd really like to do is do this thing where we can create care packages so that people can send these kinds of ingredients to sick loved ones.
Right.
But it's hard to pick out all these different products and figure out, but you can get kind of the things that I've used. And you have to remember that throughout all of this, one of my strategies was prevention, and so I have adhered to making sure my immune system is boosted as much as it can be, and stayed healthy. I'm on a keto intermittent fasting diet consistently.
Right.
But I am extremely frantic sometimes, just fighting for my patients and getting so many different requests, getting bombarded in a day. Sometimes it's, after a while you get humbled.
Yep.
And
your body will dictate what happens, and then your body will.
Yep.
I guess there was a good statement I heard at one point where it's like, if you don't pay attention to your health right now, it's going to cost, it will cost you 10 times that. And if you don't pay for it willingly, it will force you to pay for it at a certain point. And I think that stands true for pretty much anyone, because if you got to do what you got to do, right? As somebody who is a physician, but also a business owner, you have to be able to take care of matters when they arise. but there's also something, and you've taught me this a lot as I've worked with you, is being able to take time for yourself is really important. Self-care is very important and something that we all have to do a little bit better, probably job of. But there were 2 points that you brought up that I really wanted to address for viewers who may not know. One being the different types of influenza that are circulating at any given time. It's not just one strain, just like COVID has had a variety of different sort of evolutions and will probably continue to evolve indefinitely. Influenza has had that same sort of situation go on for the last couple hundred years. It's taken up on many different forms. And so that's the first point I wanted to address. And the second one was with regard to the care packages that you wish people could assemble more easily. I think there's really a lot of power in old school sort of medicinal healing with very natural ingredients that a lot of people have kind of gone away from because they just don't have that knowledge that may have been passed down pretty consistently. And so, being able to educate people on like, this is a naturally occurring substance. This is something you can go get this out of your backyard or on the trail that you hike on Saturday, that kind of thing. But so many people have no idea, myself included. There's so much I have just no clue about when it comes to natural remedies.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. Well, I mean, it's, certainly once you've been humbled like I have been, it's kind of, you take a pause. And I think that's one of the things, this, I do keep extremely busy, and this, lying in bed for 18 hours straight is unheard of. So gives me a chance to think about things and perspectives. Mm-hmm. But, for the first point, you're absolutely right. And it's, for influenza, we actually get about 3 different peaks throughout a season. This season started really early, which had me very apprehensive, and my colleagues too, about what this winter would be. And it started in August, which was frustrating because, in August, there isn't flu vaccine available. So, okay, now we got to wait until the flu vaccine comes and then people to produce the antibodies. So we're going to be behind the ball on this one. And so that had me discouraged. Mm-hmm. And, so historically, influenza, the vaccine, understanding more about the virus, the vaccine itself is a guess. There are, different formulations of the influenza vaccine, high dose, quad, trivalent, and all those. But, there's the human part about all of this, just as it is, as we have seen for COVID-19, those who choose to be unvaccinated. For COVID and the similarity with influenza would it be best if there were, more than one vaccination. And the reason, because of the season, you start to lose the efficacy of the influenza vaccine as you go through the season. Mm-hmm. And what that means is you may have the vaccine and get sick in October, and the vaccine is working really well for you. Well, that vaccine may no longer apply to the influenza A that you or me got in February. Mm. So, I do have to beg the question, but the reason for that is, understanding humanistic behaviors, that we hardly even want one shot. So how are you going to give people 2 shots? Well, I think COVID-19 has been a good example of that. Yes. People have their booster, even, and that's unheard of. Yeah. So I think what we will see each season is that there will be a combination, should be a combination vaccination for COVID and influenza. And I do think that preparation for that should begin in August. And I think that there should be a second one in January to cover for the full winter. We're looking at more of the seasonal aspects to this. So, yeah, it's, I was telling everyone this winter was going to be a very interesting winter. And here I am. Oh, yeah. Hey, of all things.
Are there any?
Second part.
Oh, yeah. Sorry. I wanted to follow up on this really quickly. And just with regard to, are there any challenges or any hurdles when it comes to, you talk about sort of packaging vaccines and getting things bunched into one so people aren't, it's a chore for a lot of people, right? You got to ask off maybe work if you can't get out. It's maybe a drive across town, depending on where you're at. If you have kids, that's a whole other challenge for folks, right? So if you could get it done at once, that'd be great. But is that harder than it sounds for the people manufacturing these things?
Well, the thing is, like, if you go to any CVS and you walk down the aisle in the cold section, you'll see $1 billion industry.
Oh, yeah.
And, there's different packaging, different marketing, and, everybody's trying to put everything into one pill, multi-symptom relief. They pack it in and as a physician, I much rather understand what the illness is and where the patient is and what's the right approach. And, over reliance on medications that are, throwing a bomb at something, because there are side effects, like very common. If somebody has, we'll just walk through this. If somebody has, a chest congestion,
right,
and a cough, very often people will go, okay, I'll get some NyQuil. And well, what's in the NyQuil? Well, there's different forms of NyQuil, right? And so, but very often they're, cough suppressants, something called dextromorphan. And, I'll have to be honest, I'm not, in favor of, over medicating. I'd much rather take and isolate each one. So I'd rather, and I tell us and advise that, rather than taking a multi-pill, active ingredient pill, break them out into separate ones. Tylenol, take Tylenol. Decongestant or expectorant, take Mucinex, not Mucinex DM. Things are marketed in a way for us as something to peddle to us, but it's better to approach it like a method,
right?
Rather than just fall for the marketing, right?
Yeah.
And it's very easy to exploit that. And I think that there, people, are fed snake oil quite often, and that's, there's plenty of history for that. But, everybody's got to, understand a little bit more and invest in themselves to really understand, what's the right way for them to move forward. And, in some cases, some of these medications, especially if you have heart or high blood pressure, can be catastrophic.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, there have been, and it's over-the-counter medication. So, so that's one part. The second part with regards to, care packages is, it's important to be able to make sure, we all have our tribes. We're all connected, right? If I'm sick, the impact is not me. It's others,
right?
It has a cascade effect. So I've avoided patient contact due to my illness. I'm required to ethically, and as such, I would want to have some support, right?
Exactly.
And it's invaluable. Just a sense of, when we say like a care pack, it really is care, because there's some things you can put into a pill, but
it doesn't do the same thing.
No, that just a nice message, or some heartfelt action of somebody sending
that was great.
pyro, goes a long way. And it's simple things, chicken noodle soup. Thank you, Len. I mean, that's like, gold, and if we care for each other, there's an opportunity for so much more. When, and that's the thing, not to be a commodity. I'm sick, so I'm actually a commodity, because I have to use products that somebody wants to sell to me.
Right.
And they're going to do everything they can for their bottom line. Tamiflu is a good example of that. Tamiflu used to be branded and very expensive. And it really took a lot of push to get it to be a generic. And it's true. We live in a capitalistic society, and I fully appreciate that. But there has to be a point where You can sell me a cell phone and that's okay. But if you're selling me a medication and or some product that I need, and your profit outweighs your responsibility, then I really don't want you in this because you don't care.
Right. Yeah. There's
Right?
not the humanistic element at that point. It's more, what are we doing from a business perspective?
Yeah. Yeah. And it's just like why did I sit for 5 hours on Saturday and 7 hours on Sunday with my patient?
Mm-hmm.
Why would I do that?
Yeah.
I mean, and the reason, for myself is I could not walk out of there in good conscience as a physician or as a human, because I have seen and have to advocate for so many patients in situations where they need somebody there to support them, and I can't walk away.
Yeah.
A large part of it is also how I was raised. I am a carbon copy of my father. It's in my DNA, and I can't help this. It does mean that I'm not somebody who can work in healthcare. Unfortunately, I wish it weren't true. I wish, but I had seen specifically why we had to do 2 days in the emergency room, because the first day had to kick and scream, and then came back the next day, and we're not leaving.
Right.
Call the cops. We're not leaving, and it's absurd. But but the result of that is that the patient is better, and I will tell you that I get a sense of satisfaction from that.
Mm-hmm. No, I think
it would be hard,
super valuable. What you're doing. It's people from an outside perspective who haven't had to be in that situation may not totally understand it until they themselves have an advocate there by their side saying, you know what, we're going to get through this kind of thing.
And that's the tricky thing, because I went through medical education and training, and a large part of that is to do factory work. I was told by my residency director, when I was spending too much time with my patients, that I wasn't going to make it.
Yeah.
And that really was unfortunate and discouraging.
Right.
But I had to make some decisions. Am I really going to do this? Because here's somebody, my mentor is telling me I'm not going to make it. Okay. Well, then I guess I got to do something else. And, that my whole, I think my DNA roots here in DC with do it yourself kind of came back and I where I am now. But, I used to, when I was in training, I used to, go and see patients as they were discharged. Before they were discharged, I'd go see their home and see what their home environment was. And I'd sneak out after a long day in the hospital and in clinic, go check it out. And then I'd come to rounds and I say, we should probably think about, getting them a walker.
Right.
And like,
what's the home environment like?
And,
yeah.
I was like, they don't, I don't know. Maybe we should ask if they have a fire detector in the home. They didn't have a fire detector. So it was just kind of like, and I put these little like pieces in, which were, I wasn't talking about all this medication or, and it was described to me that I did not have professional distance as a quality. And I don't know what that means. I mean, I do know what they were trying to say, that you have to be passionately disconnected.
Right.
I don't know. That doesn't, I can't. Well, and that's, I think that bore out.
Yeah. Well, this is very reminiscent of our conversation with Heidi, when we were visiting her in Washington State, because she described so much of the same things, basically saying she had these mentors who were just like, you're not going to make it. You're not cut out for this, essentially, because she had different methods of caring for people that she felt were more appropriate to meet their needs. And it didn't necessarily conform to the sort of rigidity that she was sort of had pushed on her time and time again, much like you're expressing here, where it's just like, this is how we do it, and this is the only way to do it. So,
yeah. And, you could, as we visited her, very modest,
Absolutely.
very, no, she didn't have a big fancy house. She didn't have a boat there on Puget Sound,
Yeah.
just had a garden, and, she had, chosen her life, right?
Yes, very much so.
And, not far from her location, a certain billionaire lives, and, sits there in, $150 million home. It's like,
Right.
who adds, who, who has more value? I don't know. And
Yeah.
I'm not in a position to judge that, or, it's easy for me to sit on a high chair, but I only know what's true for myself, and I have to be true to that, or, uh, I just won't be happy. And, I am at the age right now, I'm 53. I have to think about kind of where I'm at in my life, and, what's the next chapters, which is why, we're moving away from doing what we do as a recognized business, and making this more about a mission driven for a
Right.
nonprofit. And, that journey I'm committed to, and it'll take time. There will certainly come hardships, but I do feel innately that has to happen.
Yeah. Yeah.
And, then hand off the baton. So I would hope to be able to take some opportunities to explore those who are interested in starting their career in healthcare.
Yes, absolutely.
Nurses, physician assistants, medical students, and then somewhere along the way, revisit them, and then also share experiences for those like Heidi, those who are much older, and
Right.
can give some breadth of knowledge or perspective.
Mm-hmm.
Those archives are extremely important, because they will be gone, and that part of it will not be represented. And if that is not advocated or supported, then there really is no hope for healthcare other than it being business. And I've talked to the medical director, or chief medical officer for Medicare at length about this, and the questions about socialized medicine and those things. I don't have the answers, but all I know is what I can do, and I do that on a very grassroots level, affect my community, and if others see that and want to join in, that's great.
Well, there was one other thing I wanted to talk about with you, and that was the way in which you practice, as sort of an individual. There is not necessarily the structure that you would see around a physician practicing in a larger hospital setting. I guess there are certain like business risks that are attached to getting sick, right? When I think about, as somebody who does like video work or photography, I love basketball. I grew up playing basketball since the time I could walk. I was dribbling, and it's something I'm really passionate about. I love being able to go out and play. But as I've gotten a little bit older, there have been so many instances, quite literally, where I'm like, oh, maybe I shouldn't do that. Because if I break my ankle, I mess up my knee, I tear something, I fall the wrong way, like what am I going to do? I mean, it's like a serious concern. And I think that's something to be said for you as the founder of Doctors to You, delivering high quality care around the DC area. Like, if you get sick and you're out of commission, like, things aren't going to run quite the same way, So it's always that little nag in the back of your head. And I wanted to kind of talk to you about what is your approach to that? How does that make you feel? Are there any limitations that you feel like that has placed on your life in the way that you would ideally like to live versus the way you have to live to make sure that things kind of go the way they should?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, I'm fortunate that I do have other colleagues and those who are have the same mentality as I do.
Mm-hmm.
Gary and Stephen, who will bring on the program as well, and we are a team. And thankfully, having that backup has been phenomenal.
Mm-hmm.
It certainly allows me to focus in on things more. My biggest concern is anything that distracts me away from patient care,
Right.
or the health and well-being of my patients. only raises my anxiety
Yes.
and my OCD,
Right.
and that's not good, because that's when mistakes happen. So to have a tribe to be able to call on for support, and I do think it does mean that you have to acknowledge, uh, I am certainly fallible. I am certainly a human being whose time on this earth is limited. Uh, Finding those people along the way is extremely important.
Right.
And that, I would say that's a large part of why we're doing this. We are hoping that sharing stories, sharing experiences, sharing connection will afford an opportunity for us to do so much more.
Yes.
Right. All these stories that are there, just waiting to be told, have significant importance.
Yeah.
And just even archiving these things over time, the body of work, what it is 10 years from now, that's what the goal is. And again, more of a reason to move towards solely nonprofit venture, as opposed to anything that's for profit. And there's so many nuances to that I'm just kind of sick of business and healthcare, and even just being associated, is just, it's just one more.
That you read the news and it's just like, oh, good grief.
Yeah.
CVS Health, and $1 billion profit for Cigna. Oh, I thought you said you were going to be hurt by COVID-19. So how did you make that profit? It's a record profit for you. That's interesting. I did not.
All-time highs.
Based on what you had said 9 months ago.
Yeah.
So, it's one of those things. I don't fixate on those things. I just keep it moving. And I think that's an important point. If I stopped and just took in everything, all that was out there being, put in media and put in, advertising, I would just be extremely, discouraged. So I just keep my head to the ground and just keep moving.
Right. Well, I thank you for talking about this, because it's something where I think over the course of the time I've known you, I haven't known you to get sick even once. And I've always been incredibly impressed by that. I know that, and I knock on wood, whatever wood's around, just to keep you from getting, feeling under the weather again. But seeing people who are not feeling well, you always take your precautions when you're out. I've been out with you a number of times, and I think that you're always very careful about the way that you approach those situations with people. But I just hope that you can feel well. I know you said you went out on the scooter today, and I was really happy to hear that, because I know that good air.
Yeah.
I
was getting cabin fever.
The wind in your hair, the wind over your head, and just the good vitamin D and sunlight's just some of the best medicine that there is. So I think people hearing your account and your honesty and your candor with it is valuable, because I think oftentimes see doctors as people who don't get sick. They're always there to serve, and I know that's not, that's first and foremost, a doctor is a human being. So
Excellent.
Yeah.
So I might be having some audio changes. Somebody just tried to call me. It was a patient, and I had to answer it. So are you still hearing me okay from the Bluetooth?
I'm still getting your I'm still getting a good level on our stream from you. If you want to say a few things, I can verify.
Test, check one, check two, check one, check
still
two.
Good.
It's just you're on the speaker. Whenever somebody calls, that's always one of the problems. So I'll have to call that patient back.
I noticed a little shift as well. It was maybe about 3 or 4 minutes ago, but it changed. The room tone changed a little bit. So I don't know if it went from Bluetooth to phone and vice versa, or what. Still sounds good though.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
but
Well,
that might be a segue for.
yes.
That's a wrap.
Yeah. Yeah. I think.
Because I'll have to get back to that patient pretty quickly before.
Absolutely, no, that's
Just make
priority.
sure that
And as we wrap up, I wanted to we had filmed personally a few things a couple weeks ago with a few different books that we're hoping to utilize in coming live streams, and I think I can show those here for us. So let me just go ahead and pop that onto the screen for viewers, because there are 4 books, and I will go over them here. Just let me figure this out. Go over to our keynote, and I guess I'll put you on the screen, Dr. Brown, and there we go. Perfect. So now the audience can see you on the left side, and they can see the book on the first one. And the first one is actually from Dr. Kogan, Medical Marijuana. If you wanted to give people a little rundown, all of these videos, by the way, they're just teasers. They're usually like 40 seconds to 50 seconds ish, and they're all on the YouTube channel to give you a little bit of like warm up to hopefully getting these folks in the studio and talking to them in more depth. But the first one, if you wanted to give people a little backstory, is Dr. Kogan's book.
Yeah. So Mikhail or Misha is I've known for over 10 years, and truly a good soul, and also clinician. And he's published this book recently, and it is a great insight from a clinician in terms of the use of medical marijuana. And, I think there's so many things that are published and promoted and brought into the marketplace now with the legalization, in DC and Maryland, and now Virginia looking at it as well. These are good conversations to have. And I think having them in the studio and getting feedback from others, it'll be a good opportunity to kind of discuss this and share it. I don't think there's a reason, I know it's titled medical marijuana, but it's really more than that. I want to have discussions like, what made him write the book?
Right.
With everything that's out there already, it's like what's behind this, and get his thoughts and experience with the use of medical marijuana with his clients, and then expand it out to other treatment modalities that medical marijuana is now profitable, but there certainly are old tried and true remedies that haven't a price tag on it. Right. I wouldn't be surprised if they become commodities as well, but I think it allows us to open up and have an honest discussion about it.
Yeah, and then there was the other one here was, let's see, that was the last one. Let me go to the one that Jade shared with us, and this was Life is in the Transitions. It was a recommendation by Jade Wood. Yeah.
And I don't know what Jade was trying to get across with that title of the book with him. I was like, am I transitioning old age? I don't know, but Jade is the one who also sent me the pyro. So she obviously wants me around a little bit longer. So, that is, Jade is a good friend. She's a phenomenal therapist, and, certainly would love to have her come on, talk more about the book and other things as well. She is a tremendous resource, and I think, to have her insights and share those will allow us to start to add more concepts into these series and stories that can, over time, again, I'm very much about medicine, and health is about time, and planting these seeds to allow things to grow. And that's the intention, to talk more about the book, about the author, about Jade's own work, and the connections that we all have.
Absolutely. And then there was 2 more here. The next to last one is Shop Class as Soulcraft, which was given to you. It's a book on motorcycle building and an inquiry into the value of work. Yeah.
And this was actually provided by a good friend and dear patient of mine, a young gentleman, and who has been going through a lot. And we very much, when I'm involved in caring for anyone, it's a two-way street. And so we were just talking, and he mentioned this book that I should read, and he got me a copy, and so I've had a chance to kind of crack it open, and I think it would be a great opportunity to get him in the program to talk about it and explore what it means to him and his journey.
Absolutely.
So yeah.
Yeah, and the last one here was one I was particularly excited about, from our good friend Todd Noble at Fugel. And this is not his book, but it's a book from Robert Lustig, who I believe has one of the most viewed Harvard or Stanford lectures on YouTube. It's got an ungodly number of views at this point, but it's called Metabolical, and it's about the lies of the processed food, nutrition, and modern medicine industries. So...
it would be great to, there are certainly those who are fighting for the truth and for a better world. And it's very easy to get drowned out with, everything else that's happening.
Yeah.
But I think if we focus on the positive and can take, discussions and action, then we can affect a change.
Oh, yes.
Again, change doesn't happen overnight. It's going to take a lot of effort. And I think this is an important discussion because it gives insight into the interplay between nutrition and health.
Absolutely.
And how it's very easy for something to, you would think as food would be so fundamental that to then take it and make it into a business for profit, and that at the detriment of your own consumers.
Yes.
How it just, we've got to find a better way.
Oh yeah.
I understand people, need to make profit and shareholders and all those things, but it's a question of what Michael had brought up, which is benevolent capitalism. How much do you really need?
Yeah.
What is it really? Is it really going to take you making patients addicted to your medication so that they have to take it, so they don't have withdrawals, for you to make a profit? Really?
Yeah, I don't see anything benevolent about that. And I definitely don't think Michael would advocate along that route, but it's definitely a situation where, as you've said many times, and as the Hippocratic Oath kind of goes into this as well, but it's the health of the nation that will determine our outcome. And it's really baffling to me why we can't have leaders in our country who can kind of see that. It's if we're all healthier collectively, we are stronger as a whole. And
and that was the direct teachings of Hippocrates, who I had my oath, the Hippocratic Oath.
Yep.
His purpose was to make his country stronger,
right,
by making their citizens healthier.
Yes.
And to think that we have businesses that make our country weaker because it makes our countrymen and women sicker is, I don't think of, that's like the perfect, weapon, for basically, changing the course of history, and we've seen that in the last 100 years where we are right now.
Yeah.
But, again, having discussions, we'll get certainly other opportunities from economics and arts and music and, but we do have, we cannot think that we move through this life without social contract that we have. We do, if we lived in a cave by ourselves, and my contract is to myself, right? But there's a larger,
right.
And we are on a planet that, if we don't blow it up, then, we make sure the
We're real close
social
right
contract.
now. Real close to that right now.
Yeah.
Hopefully nothing bad.
I know. But sometimes looking at that, it's very easy to lose sight of, a way out.
Yes.
And that's one of the problems. You get a lot of these people who, you have to think in times of war, there's profit. That's one. times of illness, there's profit as well. So there's always more than what's being said or broadcast.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, I think there are some really incredibly compelling story angles, especially when I think about Todd's stuff with Fugel. He's there in Nebraska and has a whole kind of backstory that I want to dig in a little deeper with him on.
Let's get out there.
Yeah, and it's a collaborative thing, and he's willing to do that with us, and I think that's where, with his help and his knowledge and the resources of some of the people there, that's where we could really put together something that's pretty powerful.
And again, that's really what the mission is for all of us, is to get the stories, get out there. For you and I to get on here, I'm always happy to do this, but we want to really encourage others to get on the website, submit an interesting story, or reach out to us in some way so that we can collaborate on something. Again, we are making the shift to nonprofit to be able to support this fully. And it does depend on that support. So.
Absolutely. Well, we're at a pretty good stopping point, I think. And even though our circumstances, feeling a little under the weather, but getting healthier, we're still able to kind of bring some programming here to viewers, and we'll leave you with that this evening. So thanks for hopping on, and we'll cut it off.
Till next time.
All right.
Peace.
See you, everybody.